Today we're talking about the 1 to 4 player game from Bad Comet Games, Shallow Sea, Great Barrier Reef. Now, in my own assessment of Bad Comet Games, I think what they do very well is they take a core mechanic that gamers are already familiar with and love, and they try to improve upon it. Just make it a little bit more interesting and a lot more beautiful. So, in the case of Wondrous Creatures, for example, I think that game was very comparable to Everdell. And with Shallow Sea, I think this game may be comparable to Cascadia. But in this video, we'll talk about what makes this game a little different and maybe, is it a little bit more interesting, a little bit better? Is it more beautiful? We'll take a look and find out. I'll tell you what I like about the game, what you might not like about the game as we explore Shallow Sea. In this game, every player is going to be placing tiles on their own personal board, and the tiles and the fish will be taken from a supply that is common to all players. One thing that makes this game special is that when you do take a tile, you'll be taking it with one fish, and you can take one of two types of tiles, either a coral tile or a sea life tile, so named because of the artwork on the other side. So, as an example, on my turn, I can decide to take this fish and this tile. And when I do that, I replace the fish and I replace the tile with a new selection from these very nice bags. During the game, there are a few ways that you can offset bad luck by spending seashells, which you can collect during the game. I'll show you how you get these in just a minute, but one thing you can do by spending a seashell is refresh any row of tiles or fish. Just discard everything and replace it with more from the bag. Or, also for the cost of one seashell, you could take a fish with a different tile than the one that is adjacent to it. So I could, for example, take this one and this one if I wanted to. And then finally, for a cost of 2 seashells, you can move a fish on your player board. We'll see how that works in just a minute. The tiles have to go on any of these square or octagonal shaped spaces, and the fish have to go on any bubble. It doesn't have to be adjacent to a tile that's already on the board. It doesn't have to be aligned with a color that matches the color of the fish, although it is often beneficial to do it that way. You just place the tile and the fish, and that's your entire turn. It's a very simple rule set, but of course it doesn't mean anything unless you know what these tiles mean and what these fish are for. So let's take a look at that by looking at a more complex board later in the game. So here we are, it's much later in the game and a lot has changed. In fact, the positions of some of the fish have changed. They're no longer on bubbles. I'm going to show you how that happened using this example turn. So I have just selected one fish and one of the sea life tiles. And I'm going to put the sea life tile here and the fish right here. And when I do that, this tile is now complete. It's complete because it has a matching fish at every corner of the tile. So I'm going to turn it over. It's worth 9 points. And I'm going to move one fish on the tile to show that that tile is now completed. And this fish can no longer move for the rest of the game. Now, not only that, but this tile is also completed because the requirement on here is that I have 2 coral of the same type. There are 2 tiles that are yellow in the row that the arrows indicate. So I can turn that over, and I don't put a fish on it because the sea life is already depicted in the artwork. So chained effects like this can happen during the course of the entire game, and in fact, it's what makes the game so much fun. I'll do one more with you. So in this turn, I'm going to pick up this tile and this fish. I'll put the tile here and the fish here, and now there's a very exciting chain that I can do. So this tile is complete because it has the orange and the yellow, so I flip it, and I'm going to mark it with the orange fish. Now this tile is complete, so I'm going to flip that and mark it with the yellow. Oh, and every time I complete a coral or a sea life, I get a seashell. And now this tile is complete because I have 3 fish here, here, and here that are all different. So I can flip that over for 9 points, and I get another seashell. But that's not all. This green fish is in the middle of 4 tiles that are all complete, so it's not going to be used for scoring anymore. However, I can spend 2 seashells to move the green fish anywhere I want. So I'll move it over here. And when I do that, this tile is now complete. So I can flip it over, and I can put the purple fish on there. And so in one turn, I was able to complete 4 tiles. Oh, and I get the seashells because I completed them again. It is a very eventful game with a very simple core mechanic. So like I mentioned in the intro of this video, playing Shallow Sea, the core mechanics here are not earth-shattering, which in its own way is sort of a good thing because it lends to easy gameplay. It's very easy to teach how to play this game. But the idea of taking a tile and taking a character and putting those together on your player board is something that I've seen before. In Cascadia, I've seen it in Farm Club. It's a nice mechanic. It's a very thought-inducing mechanic, but that's not what this game offers to make it new. What the game does, the real innovation here, is in the stringing together of combos. I have not played a game that has that drafting mechanic along with the ability to use fish to score multiple tiles and to do them in a sequence that can give you a really satisfying turn. That is what sells this game for me. And when we played it, everyone in our family got excited because they could see that soon they would have a cool combo where if they could get a green fish, it would trigger so many other things being completed all at the same time. A few other things, though, that I really, really like about this game. I really like the flow of this game because on your turn, the only decision that you have to make that affects other players is which tile and fish to take. So while people can wait for you as you choose which pair to take, once you've selected that pair, there's really no reason to delay the game while you decide how to place them and how you want your combo to unfold. You can start placing pieces, other players can take their turn, and that lends to a really nice flow of the game. There's another element of the design that I really enjoy and haven't seen in other tile drafting games, and that is the option of picking a fish with either type of tile. The coral tiles are all going to score with fish, and then the sea life tiles are going to give you several different objectives. Not only do I like that that gives you more options, but I enjoy that it allows you to scaffold the game to your level, your preference of difficulty. If you compare it to a game like Calico, for instance, Calico is preset with your objectives on the board, and you have to work towards those objectives, or you don't score them, you don't get the points. Whereas in Shallow Sea, you can kind of pace yourself. If you want, you can do one sea life tile at a time, and once that's complete, start a new one and kind of take your time with it. Or you can tackle many all at once. I see this as giving a lot of potential to grow with the game. So initially you can do things very simply, and then as you get better, you can take on greater and greater challenges just by setting your pace on how many sea life tiles you take. So that is, to say that I like that is an understatement. It is a brilliant addition to a tile drafting design. I really think it does a lot for this game. I also really like the way that shells are used in this game. I think it's a fantastic way to offset bad luck, and yet it doesn't make things so easy that you're taking the shells for granted. You can only store up to 5 shells on your board, so you are compelled to use them if you have them, but at the same time, because it's only 5, you want to make sure you use them wisely. I love that. So as you can tell, I have a lot of reasons to like this game, and I should because it is a great game. However, I do want to share some criticisms with you as well, but before I do, I want to point out that it is a prototype after all, and Bad Comet does respond to criticism like this, so we will see what they do. Anyway, 3 things about the game. So first of all, I want to point out how this game feels compared to playing a game like Calico or Sagrada, because the other 2 games are a lot more challenging and they are very hard. And sometimes they can be a little bit frustrating. Both of those games that I mentioned, Calico and Sagrada, are games where you have to fill your entire board. And sometimes the luck just doesn't work out and you can't fulfill your objectives. And that can be frustrating. But in Shallow Sea, this, by comparison, is a much easier game. That doesn't mean that the game doesn't have its challenges, but by comparison, it is a less frustrating game. It is a game that is not so hard and more fun. Now, if you are the kind of person who likes a game that really puts pressure on you, well, maybe this is going to be too easy for you. I feel like I don't want to make this game sound easy. It's not that it's easy, it's that it's easier. However, they're putting an achievement mode into the rulebook, so maybe the achievement mode will bring in some serious challenges. And if you want to do that, maybe it'll be there. There are 2 modes to the game, which I want to point out. There is a family mode, which is what I've been playing with my family, and it's also what I play when I introduce the game to people because it keeps things a little simpler. Recommended for when you're learning the game. Family mode removes objectives, and then once you become familiar, you can add the objectives in. For me personally, I want the objectives because I like the added challenge. So I guess for Bad Comet, I would say make sure to make some challenging achievements because the game could use it. All right, next thing. Even as I received this prototype, I was informed that the game really plays best when you have 6 to 7 sea life tiles. Okay, so if you play with less than 6 to 7 sea life tiles, it's too easy. If you play with more, it becomes too hard. As the understanding, the way that I played the game, that we all played the game, it also just seems right. There's a certain balance with how many fish you get to satisfy the coral tokens, and you can only satisfy so many coral tokens. Eventually you need those sea life tokens because you're not going to be able to do all the coral. Like the game, the balance is built into the game already. I feel like you don't need to be advised on how to play. If you play the game well, you will accomplish this balance. I don't even know if this is does that even sound like a criticism to you? The point is, the game plays best when you have a balance between sea life and coral tiles. Some people will pick this up intuitively, other people need to be told. So, do the rules need to directly tell people how to play, or should you just let people play the game? I think I kind of lean towards just let people play the game. All right, last one, and this is like the big one for me, although this is something I rarely talk about when I review games. Theme. Because I live in Okinawa and I have advanced open water diving certification. So I go diving and I see fish and I see coral. I see all of this stuff. Now, these pictures aren't precise enough to really identify what it is. Now, as artwork, I don't care if it was just like a black and white symbol. You can be as artistic as you want to be, but you know what I want to know? I want to know what the coral is called. And it doesn't say that in here. It says like purple and yellow and green. It uses color. Now, in my videos that I've made, I keep referencing the clownfish because the clownfish is the one, and I know what that one is called. But the other fish are called like green and purple and yellow. I want to know what they're called. I want like a page of this is where they live, this is where their habitats are, all of that stuff. So I hope that they include that because clearly they're not just like inventing these fish. These aren't imaginary fish. They did some research. So tell me what they're called, please. I like that. I like the page in the rulebook that tells me about what the fish are. Yes. So those are my criticisms. They're very light criticisms. If you like tile placing games, I think you'll love this one. It has such a great flow to it. I wish it played more than 4 players. That's not really a criticism. If it needs to play 4, maybe expansion, 5, 6 player expansion, that would be cool. Anyway, Shallow Sea, do I recommend it? Yeah, I do, because Bad Comet is one of my favorite publishers of family board games. I've talked about this before. I love the stuff they make. So yes, this is an awesome game. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the review useful, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.